It's Granny. When I was 9 years old, for my 9th birthday, I received a book from my older sister, who was at that time in her 30s. And the title of the book was White Gloves and Party Manners. And I'm so glad I read this book. Manners are very important. This has especially come to light in wake of the election of our current president, who, it seems to me, never read this book. There's a special chapter for boys, and I really think he should have read it, but he didn't. In any case, in an effort to make the world a better place, I'm going to share this book with you now. I know most of you already know manners and have manners, but for those of you who haven't been privy to this information, I think it's important. So here goes. White Gloves and Party Manners. White Gloves and Party Manners by Marge Bell Young and Anne Bushwald. This is what I wrote inside the front cover when I was 9. The top lines were written by my sister, who gave me the book, and the fourth line through the 8th line, I can't count, 7th line, whatever. You can see which writing is from a child. I didn't put my photograph in it. I don't know why. And this shows my best friend, Carol Mock. So, hey, you guys, I told you we met in 6th grade. Apparently we met in 4th or 5th grade, because look at that. There's Carol, my best friend at 9 years old. So there you have it. Good manners. Manners are an important part of getting along with your friends and family, teachers in school, and strangers you may meet. Being friendly and polite is probably something you do most of the time, but it's a good idea to follow these helpful hints. You will get along with your own friends when you admire their good points and try to overlook their faults. Be kind, not bossy, boastful, or selfish. Learn to keep a secret or a promise. Return what you borrow and share things. If you make a mistake, admit it. If you hurt someone's feelings, say you're sorry. When someone hurts your feelings, accept the apology and try to forget angry words. Don't play favorites with your friends. You never whisper to one person in front of others. Older people who will see how friendly and respectful you are. Whenever an older man or woman comes into a room, stand up. You always stand up when you're being introduced to someone, your own age or older, boy or girl. Use people's names when you answer questions. Not just yes or no, but yes, Mrs. Brown, or no, Aunt Mary. If you don't remember an older person's last name, say yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. Try not to eavesdrop, but if you hear adults talking, don't repeat what they say, in your own home or anywhere else. You don't criticize another's house or clothes or possessions or make giggly comments. No giggly comments, people. You'll get along with teachers, instructors, or anyone who is trying to teach you because you listen quietly and are willing to learn. If you do well in school, music, sports, or scouting, be thankful for their help. You will also get along with doctors, dentists, and their nurses who appreciate you because you're courteous, patient, and as brave as you can be. Treat them like helpful friends, not enemies trying to hurt you. Be on time for appointments. Those who serve you. Waiters, waitresses, or bus drivers are glad to help, especially if you say please and thank you when you order or ask for some service. Respect their work and appreciate what they do for you. Newcomers in your school or neighborhood who are glad they met you because you make them feel wanted, not out of place or alone. It doesn't matter if they go to a different school or church, their speech or clothes is different, their parents are divorced or separated, they have more or less money than your parents, their color or race is different, they don't know as much about manners as you do. Meetings, greetings, and goodbyes. To introduce means to share someone you know and like with at least one other person. To be introduced is the proper way to be shared with others. You have probably already made introductions without realizing it. When you brought home your first school friend and said, "Mother, this is Jenny Jones," that was an introduction. Now, as you learn a few more rules about introductions, you will grow into a more perfect hostess, a more popular guest, and a more thoughtful friend. Like how they say, more perfect hostess, not host. Being sure of what to say is the first secret of making introductions. The second is to speak so others can hear you. Remember to speak slowly. Then words and names will come to you without hesitation. There are two ways to introduce people. The less formal way is to say, "This is Jane Jones," or "This is Eddie Smith." It is a fine way for young children to introduce their young friends, particularly to their own family or to others their age. The more grown-up phrase is, "May I present Jane Jones?" And it makes anyone you introduce feel twice as proud, twice as important to you. In your life, you will introduce thousands of people to each other, but your introductions will all fall within one of three groups. In Group 1, introduce the younger person to the older one. You will automatically do this correctly if you look at the person who is older, your mother, father, aunt, or teacher, while you say his or her name. "Mother, this is," and then turn to the younger person and say his or her name, "Nancy Smith." Another example, your teacher. "Miss Jones, may I present my brother, Joel Long." In Group 2, introduce the less important person to the more important. You first look at the teacher, the doctor, the mayor, or the dignitary while you say his name. "Dr. Brown, this is my friend, Timmy Jones." Although they are not less important, the same rule applied when you introduced your parents to people such as teachers, coaches, or a friend's mother. You say, "Mrs. Brown, may I present my mother?" You do not say your parents' last name unless it is different from your own. In Group 3, introduce the boy to the girl. First, you look at the girl and say, "Nancy, this is George Brooks." Then turn, look at the boy, and to tell him Nancy's last name, you say, "Nancy Smith." When a girl is 16 or older, she skips from Group 1 to Group 3. The man is then introduced to her, even if he is older. You say, "Mary, this is my father. Dad, this is Mary Williams." The only exception to the 16 or over rule is when the man is of particular importance, a bishop, senator, mayor, or someone with a title. The very first thing to do when you are introduced is stand up. It shows friendship to those your own age and respect to older people. In fact, as soon as an adult enters the room, you should rise, even if you have to wait a few moments for introductions to begin. Only when a girl is 16 or over may she remain seated. Next, you look at the person to whom you are introduced, smile, and say, "How do you do?" or "Hello, Jane." You don't have to say anything more unless you want to talk. Boys always shake hands with boys or men when they are introduced. If a girl or woman offers her hand to him, he shakes it, but he doesn't reach for it. Girls seldom shake hands with other girls. Usually they smile and say, "Hello, Jane," or "How do you do?" However, girls should be prepared to shake hands with an older woman who extends her hand. A charming practice for a girl of 12 or older is to extend her hand when introduced to an older man. In other words, you make the first gesture to shake hands with a man, but wait for an older woman to lead the way. The curtsy is the equivalent of shaking hands for girls 12 or under. In fact, part of a curtsy involves shaking hands. A curtsy is a form of respect to the adults you greet or meet. It is also something active and graceful to do during the first moment you might be feeling embarrassed or shy, or wonder how to please the person you are meeting. Here is how you make a curtsy. Think of doing a little dance step. Place your right foot tiptoe behind your left heel and a little to the left of it. Then bend your knees and do a quick dip. Try it. Dip down, not too far. Now up, straight as a princess. At the moment you start the curtsy, you extend your right hand to the older person who shakes it as you do the dip. How to say goodbye. The same courtesy you show when you are introduced to people should be shown when they leave. You stand up, shake hands or curtsy, and say, "Goodbye, Mrs. Brown," or "Goodbye, Mary." It is always nice to add, "Thank you for coming over," or "That was fun," if it is a friend your age. Then you walk to the door with her. When you stand up and say goodbye politely, you make anyone feel the visit was important to you. A few special introductions. Most adults are addressed as Miss, Mr., or Mrs. You repeat it when you say their names. But some important people have titles which you will want to add after you say, "How do you do?" The main ones are for a Protestant minister, "How do you do, sir?" A Catholic priest or nun, "How do you do, Father O'Brien?" or "How do you do, Father?" or "How do you do, sister?" or "How do you do, Sister Alberta?" A rabbi, "How do you do, Rabbi Weiss?" or just "How do you do, Rabbi?" A congressman, "How do you do, Mr. Lindsay?" A judge, not in the Supreme Court, "How do you do, Judge Jones?" A judge of the Supreme Court, "How do you do, Justice White?" or "How do you do, Mr. Justice?" An ambassador, "How do you do, Mr. Ambassador?" An ambassador's wife, "How do you do, Mrs. Atwood?" A mayor, "How do you do, Mr. Mayor?" or "How do you do, Mayor Berkeley?" A governor, "How do you do, Governor Walsh?" A senator, "How do you do, Senator Smith?" or "How do you do, Senator?" The Vice President of the United States, "How do you do, Mr. Vice President?" The wife of the President of the United States, "What the hell were you thinking?" What was she thinking? Hey guys, I just wanted to share that book with you. For one thing, because it's just such a classic. I mean, good manners never go out of style. A few things have changed since that book came out. For instance, they said most women are addressed as Miss, Mrs., or what was the other thing they said? I don't know, but they didn't say Ms. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you liked my book and my poetic liberties I took there at the end. I mean, I can't believe it. It's like every morning I wake up. Like every morning I wake up and it's like, what'd that fool do now? It's like if I go to sleep, he's going to do something wrong. It's like my dog. The old one. The 16-and-a-half-year-old. It's like every morning, it's like, what did she do? Oh my gosh. But yeah, this president, it just scares me. I'm not really a political person. I voted Democrat all my voting life, and I voted Democrat this time. And you know, there's been plenty of years when my candidate didn't win. But I didn't go out to lunch over it. I mean, I didn't freak out. It was like, oh well, you know, 4 years we have a Republican in the White House. Not that huge a deal. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be parts of his agenda that I don't care for, but I always thought that the elected leader was in his right mind, at least. Had some kind of character, morals, ethics. Anyway, I wasn't going to talk about my political views on YouTube, and I really don't want to make it a regular thing. But it's like, it's been on my mind a lot. It's like, how can it not be on your mind? It's one thing after another. You don't even have time to protest one thing before another thing happens. It's like we're being steamrolled here, people. And it scares me, the changes that this man is making in our country just in the space of a week. Anyway, I think we're in for a rough ride, guys, so fasten your seatbelts, watch Granny's videos so you can keep laughing, and know that I love you and I'm thinking about you. And yeah, you know, no matter how you voted, we're all on the same team, and we all want to make it through the next 8 years. So let's just try not to hate each other, because I think that's what we're being taught to do. Let's not do that. Love conquers all, people. Bye.